Okay, we are back. It is 1:34 PM and we're picking up with the 2024 through 2025 budget deliberations. And Nicole, pass it straight to you.
So I'm gonna pass it to Robin. She's gonna kick off the forecast model.
Okay.
Right, well, we're gonna spend just a little bit more time with the model because I think that, that there are some what if questions that people ask that we'd see what it looked like. So I'm gonna share my screen and hope that I pull up the right one. So this model, as I was saying earlier, makes adjustments for items we found that needed to be fixed. And we think we have some ideas, but this particular model doesn't incorporate the ideas that we haven't shared with you yet. This has a no step down of the road levy. Instead, we are increasing it $1 million in the next few years. And it fully funds the COLA that has been authorized. It funds maintenance level. It includes policy level items that come with revenue, only to the extent they come with revenue. And it has 6 million in reductions. And what this does, it gets you right to a 2-month ending fund balance at the end of 25 if the revenue assumptions play out the way we anticipate in this model.
And that's flat?
They are flat. There's growth in sales tax. We assumed 1% growth in 24, and I'm looking at Nicole. It's 1% in 24, 2% in 25, 3% in 26, and
Going out.
flat into the future. And that is in line with the Washington State Economic and Revenue Forecast Council. They think that things are gonna slow down more and then very slowly increase. So that's what we've done in sales tax. In property tax, we assumed the 1% cap plus new construction, with limited growth in the new construction. So it basically, new construction is worth approximately 2% of the levy, so that's what I built in, a 3% growth in property tax in every year for the levy. So that's already built in. We have lost revenue coming in this year so that the entire lost revenue, and I think I've got lost revenue coming in next year. So throughout the years that we could draw in that fund, there's a total of $7 million coming into the general fund, but that ends in 2024. We have the salary replacement coming out of ARPA in 23 and 24. We have, but we can't do that again in 25. That ends because those are items we can't obligate. So those are kind of the big moving pieces on the revenue side. On the expenditure side, we've assumed a 3% reversion. We'll just go to the chart rather than the graph. So there's a 3% reversion. There's the one-time adjustments coming out. Those were substantial. There's the maintenance level changes, fully funding maintenance level. There's the policy level changes that equal policy revenue. And then 6 million in reduction and fully funding the COLA. So even with that, you get the graph that looks like this, to where we're spending more than our revenue out through the end of 2030. So one of the things, we can play around with this a little bit with the assumptions. what if we didn't make a cut this year? And what if we didn't assume to need a cut next year, or in 24 or 25? So if we set the reduction to 0, that's what the graph looks like. Right away, we've immediately overspent, not just the fund balance. The fund balance in 24 will end a little above the 2-month ending fund balance target. But in 25, if we continue on that type of an expenditure trajectory, we'd immediately be below cash flow. We would not have enough fund balance left for cash flow needs. And then we'd be in the red in future years.
That's real quick, because when we kind of came up with 8% or whatever, and we were playing with this model, the $7 million
Right,
was put us in significantly better position than what you showed there with the $6 million.
That's right.
So some things have changed since in the last 2 weeks.
that's,
Is that because we
Correct.
put in COLA
so
adjustments,
if
or
we
what? I mean,
did,
what is it that's different in this?
this model includes a few things that we found that were not included in the original budget that came in. And one of the major things was that when we did the personnel, it was at a point in time, and as you know, our union members have not received their COLAs yet for this year. So those were excluded from the numbers that we received from HR, and we had to fix that because, of course, they're gonna receive at least the 2.5% for this year that was in this year's budget. It was excluded from future years, so we had to add that back in. So, but there were other adjustments as well. Right now, if we cut 7 million, because I've been playing at 7 million looks like this.
And yeah, I mean, it looked similar, but better than that when we were
Right.
looking at 7 million before.
Right,
But you're telling us that maybe rather than, I'm looking at that and going, well, maybe it has to be 8 million, but you're saying you've whittled it down to 4 somehow?
so there's some things you could do that could get it down to 4. If, for example, we increased the levy shift by another $1 million, so that would bring it up to a total between the levy shift and the road diversion would be a total of 4.5 million coming out of the road fund.
Before we make that particular decision, how much are they planning on spending for oil-related products of road repair out at roads?
I can't tell you that.
But we can put a request in,
We could
To
certainly
find
send
out
that request to
how
Jennifer
much-
and Matt.
how much they anticipate spending over the next 2 years, because I still think it's a waste of money to continue on with a project that we only get, say, a third of the repair work done that we would have got spending those same dollars 2 years ago.
True, but that also assumes that costs are gonna come down in the future.
It's
which
all based on
We
oil.
don't think they are.
It's all based on oil.
Yeah.
So can we
And gas
find
is
out
gonna go
from them?
down to $1 a gallon again.
I don't think it'll go to $1.
It's, yeah, it's not. So if we increase the road diversion, and if we are able to find, and I'm tossing out a number that I'm not prepared to back up in this moment, so don't hold me to this until later in the week. But if we find an additional 2 million that we can transfer in, from another fund,
Now, wait a minute, above and beyond the 1 million that you're taking on a shift?
yeah, this would not be from roads, this would be from somewhere
Like,
else.
tell us, give us an idea
This
about
is
what
where I'm
somewhere else
telling you, I'm
means.
not prepared to
Oh,
say right
okay.
now.
Could it be from the Rainy day fund.
It could be from the rainy day fund, it could be from elsewhere. Give us time
Okay,
to work on that, but if you could pull in 2 million one time from somewhere else, and we did a reduction of $4 million instead of 7, then the graph looks like this. Still not wonderful in the out years, still not, you're still banking on the economy turning around within the next 2 years. But that's what that would look like. Taking those out. uh, What are other assumptions that you might like? Oh, this would be, let's say for a moment that you increase the road shift, that you don't do a cut, and you only fund the must-do items at policy level. You still do maintenance level and the policy items that come with revenue. And then above that, only the must-dos. And let's say for a moment, we assume more robust growth in the tax revenues. Let's say we get our average 5% in
I'm
each
not
year.
willing to bet on that.
Well, you shouldn't be willing to bet on that, but other people are saying, well, what if things turn around?
Well,
So let's show the graph with things turning around super fast. And I'm not suggesting that you should make these assumptions at all. Other people have said things are gonna turn around. Here's what it would look like if they did. 5% per year in sales tax growth every year, starting in '24, no cuts, only funding the must-do at policy level.
Could we do the forecast with, let's just say we don't do cuts this year and leave everything as is?
Sure. So I'm gonna,
And then could we calculate how much we would have to cut next year?
let's do that.
I know you guys have got, we're gonna go through and I guess we're gonna hash out what's must do and what's not. What's your rough estimation of must do? Is it,
$3 million.
3
$3 million,
It is 3, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
3 million. I think I gave you a short list that was close to 5, and I think that can be whittled back to 3.
And
It might be able to get it down less. That's part of what we're still working on.
okay, okay.
Yep. So no cuts next year. If we cut $11 million out of 2025, then you'd be in great shape.
Let's say.
Wait, what is that showing me?
Well, why would we divert from cutting anything now in 11 million and 25? Because it's not gonna
I
turn
don't
around.
think you should,
It's not gonna turn around that
but that's
quick,
what
I
I
can
was
tell you.
asked to show.
Did you revert back the revenue? I don't think you did. I think you still have it at
I
5%.
did revert back the revenue.
Did? How
Yes,
about
I did.
we do like a 7% then? Or a
What?
7 million. cut
7 million in the second
2025.
year?
Yeah.
What would that look like? This is with no policy items other than the must-dos.
How about a 9? So 9 would kind of get us there.
It'd, it's well enough above cash flow that you'd be okay, but it's below the 2-month target. So in the following year, you'd have to cut more to align with the county policy to have a balanced budget if you don't have a 2-month reserve. And would, again, you know, would offices and departments think that this is a better plan? Just have a bigger cut in 25 rather than take the cut now? And I don't think that that's a good plan at all. Every guidance we get on good budget practices, forget about best practices, these are just good practices, is if you know a problem's coming, address it sooner rather than later.
How about barely passable practices?
So if
What
they
does
were,
that say?
I know our rainy day policy kind of has some items that, you know, kind of qualifies it. I mean, for me, right, I think a good faith effort on behalf of the board would be to transfer $2 million. And I would be willing to amend the resolution to kind of fit this model in. I mean, not particularly what, you know, I want to do, but I think it shows a good faith effort that we're trying to do everything possible. And if that's something that the board has the prerogative to do, if it's a situation where we have to amend the resolution, I'm willing to have that conversation with the board, because I'm there. And if that $2 million will help with the cuts, then I'm willing to do that.
No decisions today.
I'm not opposed to it necessarily, but I don't think it's smart not to make a cut this year, because I think your prognosis is off, and I'm not saying we aren't gonna have a recovery, but it's gonna take some changes at the national level, and it ain't gonna happen overnight. So your recovery analysis to me is too quick.
My
not
recovery
likely.
analysis is 2% growth next year, 3% growth the year after that, 4% growth in 26, and back to the 5 that we're accustomed to in 27. It is a very slow recovery built into this
I know,
model.
but we got the worst recession we've had in a long time.
Well, that would,
And inflation is the big key.
yep, that would speak to not rating the rainy day fund now.
Well, I'm all in favor of taking rainy day fund, shift, and diversion, and a across the board, reduce the baseline cut of X. I don't know what X is, but
Well, even if you pull 2 million out of the rainy day fund, you'd still have to reduce by $4 million. That would be.
I'm not
Negative
against
4 million.
reducing the overall baseline budget by whatever, 4, 3, 4, whatever.
So what if
Right,
you didn't do a cut? And you took the 2 million out of the rainy day? And
But you've already estimated a 1 million out of, no, not rainy day, okay, you haven't taken anything out.
well, I've estimated a significant hit on the road fund.
But still, do I
And-
need my seatmates to agree with me? I wanna know what the, oil purchase product price.
No, we send the question.
Okay,
We can't
so
tell you what it is.
You can't
but
tell
we
me very
send the-
quick, no.
I
but-
can't tell you,
Yeah,
but
okay.
we've sent
I've reached
the
out to
question
Karen.
to the people who might know.
Okay,
That'd make us look really good. If you took, if we took the money out of the road fund, both levy shift and diversion, up to 4.5 million a year, ongoing, and you took $2 million this year, or in 24. In 24, you transferred 2 million out of the rainy day fund. And you did no cut this year,
Why do we keep saying no cut this year?
just because people would like to see that.
Oh.
I know you're not agreeing to that, but
Oh, okay,
others would like
okay,
to
good
see
enough.
what that
No,
looks like.
That's fine.
I'm not
Okay.
suggesting that, I'm
Okay.
just saying, here's what it would look like. And then the reduction next year, let's make it 7. You'd still have to take a 7 million reduction in 25 to get to an ending fund balance. And you wouldn't have to determine that now, you'd have to do it in the midterm. So you'd go through all this same angst next year with no cushion.
Okay, when you make that analysis, are you moving from 24 to 25 with a reduced baseline, as I'm proposing? Are you sticking with status quo?
I am showing someone else who asked to see this picture, what it would be to make no reductions in 24.
Okay,
It
Okay.
adds maintenance level, policy level, equal to policy revenue,
okay,
and policy must-dos.
okay.
So there's a lot of ways to look at this, and if you have other things you'd like to have me factor in, we can do that. But my recommendation to you is to find at least 4 million in cuts this year. That would be ongoing into the future. So
But I wanna do that through adjusting the baseline, is my.
I don't understand, when you say adjust the baseline, what is it you're cutting from the base?
Just across the board,
All right,
whatever you say, 5% or whatever. After the first part of November, we're gonna have an idea of how things are gonna go. And that comes into play. But whatever that reduction is, I'm not looking at adding anything. The must-dos, the $3 million must-dos, I don't know is there a must-do. They're a darn good thing we ought to do and all that, but times are tough.
so
And
I'd say every ask you got was a darn good thing, you ought to do it. There's nothing there that people don't really need.
But we're getting along
However-
with even the must-dos, right now.
Well, those are the things that we want to talk about this week, is we can show you why they need to be done. And we are still working on, is there another way to do them and not have an impact to the general fund? So with any luck, we can whittle down the 7 million to 4 or less, but, those are the choices that you have to make this
If
week.
those entities that are stating they need this must-do process in place for them to do their job, then let them make a decision within their baseline budget, what they wanna cut to accomplish that.
Great. Well, we'll take a look at those. So Nicole, I'm gonna ask you to bring up the overview of the general fund requests.
Share my screen.
What is the reduction targets that were sent to various groups? That sent out, that added up to 7 million?
7 million.
And what was the sheriff's target in that exercise? Nothing. Why is that? He's the biggest part of the general fund.
We exempted 24-hour service, so we exempted,
Okay, but he has elements of his business that are not 24-hour road service.
That, we're also prepared to address that question this week, but if we're gonna assume that the levy not the levy, the ballot measure passes, the public safety tax.
Yeah,
If we assume the public safety tax passes this week, then the amount in the current budget is the minimum amount that you can devote from the general fund to the sheriff. We essentially have a maintenance of effort level, and I would say the same for public defense. We would be able to cut that or
Prosecutor,
the criminal part of the prosecutor's
justice.
office. Yep.
component of the.
but if it doesn't pass, then the sheriff would have to have some stake in this exercise.
If it
Even
does
if it's
not pass, you have asked us, can we split the 24/7 part of the sheriff's office from the non-24/7, if you will? And we are trying to get that number. That's not an easy thing to come up with. But we're working on it. Just as we are working on that, we took the full amount of juvenile court, and that also should be split. A portion 24/7 and a portion non-24/7, so theirs would go down, somewhere else will go up. So we have a few different permutations of that to show you later this week.
So I'll share. So in early September, we went through high level what the change requests were coming between, for general fund for departments and offices. And this was one of the sheets that was shown then. I'm bringing this to your attention just to show you a high level on the change requests that we're gonna go through. So, this blue area here called 2024 baseline budget, we're gonna go through the change requests that related to building this 24 baseline. This pink here, where it says maintenance level, we're gonna go through that as well. So this is baseline and maintenance level. We're gonna give you high level of those change requests. Some of the change requests in those categories or pages are like 40.
Do we have this in
pages
our
of line.
handouts?
This is what you received in September.
September 11th. Do you have your,
Nope, I got my book.
So we're just using this as a tool to show you the things that we're gonna spend most of your time on.
right. We're gonna spend a lot of time in the policy level area, in this green area here. I just wanted to give you a high level, when we start going through all these packets, because there's a number of packets on our desk here, and there's a lot of lines for each one of these packets because of the accounting behind each one of the requests. Yeah. That when we get to the baseline, which was building what the beginning budget is, there's, like I said, copious pages and lines for accounting. But that's where we're getting to this baseline here, and when we get to maintenance, we talk about what we need just to maintain our operations. That's the pink area as well, that we'll go through those lines fairly quickly unless you have questions.
Where am I gonna find that in here? Tell me what page or what.
It was given September 11th, if that helps.
Okay,
I don't know where that would be in your book,
yeah,
Commissioner.
there's the 13th, there's the 14th. So it's in this area here.
So we're not gonna spend much time on this.
Oh,
We're
you're not
just showing
spending time
you
there?
that everything in the column that's budget adjustments,
There it is, right there.
when we look at these packets, if it's in that budget adjustment column, we're not gonna spend any time. We're gonna take you to the bottom line in this packet.
Okay, well, I'm
If it's
ready to
in
go, I'm ready to
maintenance
go to
level-
the bottom line.
Yep, we're gonna go to the bottom line. We're gonna try to spend most of your time in the policy where you actually have decisions to make.
Which is the green area.
Yep.
So I'm gonna stop sharing this.
So that, the underlying thing is a basic assumption by the budget office. And please, if this is not a valid assumption, you need to let us know. I'm assuming that, of course, we're gonna make the baseline adjustments, we have to, those are one-time items coming out, we save a whole lot of money that way. I'm assuming that you're going to approve maintenance level, because that's cost of doing business as it is.
When you
And-
say maintenance level, today's maintenance level or a reduction in percentage of maintenance level? What do you need?
When I say maintenance level, I'm talking about in the next 2 years, including in the budget, the cost of doing businesses for the services that we provide today with the current FTEs.
With no reductions?
No reductions
Okay.
yet.
Okay,
We're gonna get to, here's what it would take to do business as it is. And that the changes, the real changes or where you have decisions to make is at the policy level. So that is an underlying assumption in the conversations that we've got for you, and the reason that we think that we can go pretty quick through about half of this stack that is in front of you. Slow us down if there are questions you have, but Nicole's gonna start to walk you through this stuff and it's gonna feel fast.
so are you saying that we're not gonna make the 8% cut?
No, I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just talking about where we're gonna spend our time for the rest of today.
Okay,
Why don't you start
I'll
and
start,
maybe
yeah.
it'll become clear.
okay. So the first packet, it says beginning fund balance.
Don't even bring it up.
Don't even bring it up.
Don't. It says beginning fund balance. This is just adjusting the beginning fund balance. Done. That's how fast we're gonna go through some of this stuff. It's totally technical. There's no change. There's nothing you can do about this. Anyone can do at all. So, done.
So then the next one is beginning biennium adjustments. So this packet's over 44 pages. This is one-time items that were removed out of the budget, so whatever was in 23, that was one time. We have removed those things out of the budget. We've worked with every office and department to get approval on these one-time adjustments out of their budget, so we have corresponded and worked with them.
Go to page 43. And look at the effect on the general fund.
And it's a decrease in the general fund.
Some things went up, some things came down, but overall, it's a massive decrease in the general fund for one-time items. So,
And when you say a massive decrease,
that's exactly right.
what percent is it?
Percent of a decrease is
Yeah, what?
that? I didn't calculate that, but it's around,
Well, just give me the dollar
maybe
amount.
3% dollar amounts is a reduction of $6.5 million each year.
So that's like,
See it?
Okay, well, no, I mean, 6.5, that matches
Here
what
it
we've
is,
been
right here.
talking about. Anyway,
It's already built
Yeah, right
into
there,
the,
right?
yep, it's already built into the forecast.
okay,
Done. Okay.
I like getting that stuff off.
Yeah,
I did spend a lot of work to make this 44 pages look like.
yes. Thank you, well done, Jennifer.
Okay, so the next packets we're gonna look at, there's 3 of them, and they work together. So the title is called Reversal of Internal Service Rates. The next one's called Indirect Service Rates and Cost Allocation. So the beginning of the budget cycle, offices, departments, central services, HR, financial services came before you to talk about internal service rates. You reviewed them and gave you okay to build them into the budget. These are the lines for those.
So I guess we're done with that, right?
Yep. Take out the entire amount, we put the new amounts in, and we allocate them appropriately.
Look at that, 6 packets through already.
looking better.
All right?
And you reviewed all of this when you reviewed the indirect rates in the summer, so it's not like you never saw those.
So the next thing is debt. And so this is maintenance level, so this has to do with all of our debt payments. We coordinate with the treasurer to make sure that,
It says grants.
does it say grants? Maybe it's right behind it. Maybe it's out of order a little bit.
When you say that, we,
Oh, no.
That is only 2 pages, so it might have gotten,
I had one sticking in.
how many pages did you say?
Debt is 3 pages.
oh,
3-page.
mine's copied front and back.
Mine, are we talking about indirect service rates?
No, sir, we already moved past indirect
No, you went
service.
that quick.
One's done.
There's 3 related
Yep,
to
and the
internal
cost
services.
allocation's done, because those 3 work together.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
cost
Boom,
allocation.
boom,
Got it?
Yep. And here we go. Debt.
This is to continue with our debt payments that we have already obligated to pay. This is just aligning accounting lines to make sure we have the authority to continue with those payments. So this is just maintenance level.
Impact to the general fund, less than $1,000 per year.
Yep, 833.
Yep, done.
Okay. So the next packet is grants.
Okay. Oh, you're doing grants, okay.
That's what I have next. Is that what
Like
you're?
a second, I had it myself.
All right, so, we printed this report and then looking at it, we found a couple things I just wanna bring to your attention, because grants generally are your revenue coming in, we're saying we're gonna match it with the expenses. If you, turn to page 2, where you have a summary of what's impacting the general fund, the revenue and expenses for grants, that you can see that we're getting in more, we're reducing revenue more than we are the expenses here. And so line 11 and 12, I'd like to bring your attention to, so that's still page 2.
Say that again?
Line 11 and 12.
Yes,
On page 2,
on 2,
yes. So these 2 grants here that are through emergency management,
yes.
we're in the budget office, we're gonna follow up on these because the expenses are larger than the grant revenue, and we wanna make sure, what's going on here to ensure that if we're decreasing or collecting revenues, that the expenses are matching. So we do have a note already to follow up on those 2.
So this one, you don't know about this one yet.
Right.
Right, so other than that, the grant revenues here in this packet are maintenance level, and they're matching, the expenses are matching the revenues.
This is that one of 3.
Yes.
Yeah. So grants will come back to when you're making decisions, because we think there may be either an error in that entry or a decision to be made.
Okay, so then the next one is technical, maintenance level technical. And so this packet aligns with things that are just technical in nature, meaning we're moving things around to be able to make sure that we're accounting correctly. If you jump all the way to page 5, where it has the impact to the general fund, you can see that it's a decrease of 654,000. So we have a decrease in, general fund. And then you see that the other, change here, significant change, is the COVID fund, which is the last line on page 5. And that is showing just an increase there, so that's us
That's
truing
just,
up.
that's showing what again?
That's showing, COVID, the last line there where it says 21. That's us just basically doing a technical adjustment to make sure that the beginning fund balance and all the revenues and expenditure authority lines up with what we have in that fund. So that's why this packet is technical.
So there's how much in there? 21 million or 7 million?
21,
There is actually about $29 million in that fund.
21's at the
Sitting
end
in
of
the fund.
24.
This just gives us authority to spend the money that's in the COVID fund.
right,
Oh, that's what this is.
Yeah.
it's just adjustments.
There's
accounting
nothing there that
adjustments.
we can get into.
No,
We're
get into-
gonna scrub that
yeah,
in the
when we
next
get
few
into the
days.
briefing and we talk about where you've allocated and have money in reserve, that we can talk about where to.
Okay.
So later this week, we have a COVID briefing too,
Oh, okay.
but all technical.
Okay, so the next packet is revenue. This is where all the revenue adjustments are done throughout the county, so any department or office who has, ownership over a fund, is supposed to maintain that, has recorded the revenues in there. This is where we recorded the property tax and the sales tax for the general fund. If there's any specific questions about revenues that we have recorded here, I can definitely answer them.
Is there a bottom line here?
There is a
Yes.
bottom line on page 6.
Okay.
So this is where you see the revenues, just general revenues, coming into the general fund are anticipated to increase by less than $1 million a year.
And then number 3 and 4, that's
Is that
kind
the
of,
829?
3 and 4 is the assumption that the new tax will pass in November.
3 and 4, line 3 and 4?
Lines 3 and 4 on page 1.
And tomorrow we have scheduled to get into more detail concerning those two
But-
funds.
Does that affect the outcome of everything else?
No,
Because it goes to a different fund.
Right, yep.
And
not
it's
general
kind of a division by percentage of that amount generated, is that kind of what it is?
Based on the resolution.
75% to law and 25% to justice.
Okay. Okay.
Alright, so this is one of the main things, we keep coming back to this, but when we say revenue's flat, when the general revenues are only increasing by less than $1 million out of $120 million overall revenue, that's flat. It's crazy
But
flat.
if things pass, it will change and add more revenue, only not substantially
general
everywhere,
fund.
but it'll take pressure off the general fund.
Only
So
if
some
you-
of those must-dos we might be able to get after.
In the long run, it'll take pressure off the general fund,
not
at
immediately.
first it will not.
That's right.
What is the, like the normal 2.5% COLA that we usually have for our employees? What does that usually cost us, like each year? Is it like 700,000 or
2.5%,
1 million or?
so for every person, I did this once and I used to know, but it's
You told us
higher
the
now.
number.
For every percent, it's like around $650,000.
So if we did 2.5, we'd be looking at 13, something like
Roughly.
1.9 million or something.
And 1.9 is, yeah, what it's gonna cost us for,
That we're not gonna have any employees. with it.
Every year, we need
Go 2.5.
1.9 million just to give them a 2.5%, which in an inflation environment or whatever is
so
inadequate.
it's closer to 1, I've got that built in. When we go back to 2.5%, it's probably right around 1.7. It's closer to 1.7, but that's not,
But about half of what the projected new revenue is. I mean, double what the.
Yeah. yes.
I mean, just trying to give a sense of every year, even if things are flat and properly managed and no maintenance level, we're always operating with about $1 million a year less money
That's right.
because of the revenue caps and
Right.
the desire
Right.
for us, our commitment we've made historically to employees and all of the different.
Right, and we looked at the property tax calculation earlier today. 1% is just under $500,000. The new revenue is less than 800,000. Those two things together don't cover a 2.5% COLA. And even if you figure fairly robust growth in sales tax, you still don't have enough to cover the COLA. So, and that's not allowing for anything else, not increases in postage or contracts or anything. And those are our sources. That's for better or worse.
But we're gonna
That's
have to
the money
do
that we
better
get.
than that if we wanna retain any employees. That's the bottom line.
So every January, we bring you the revenue opportunities and the major one's a lid lift. But those are never popular for general government purposes.
But inflation is gonna keep going for a while. So,
All right, Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, so the next one is maintenance level 2. And so this is 16 pages long, so I'm gonna bring you to the page 15, so you can see.
Which
the
page?
Page 15, so you can see the impact to the general fund.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
On number 4, the commissioners, and basically the 4 additional, 2 commissioners and their 2 aides that are coming on in January. The 754 and 741, is that with the $100,000 reduction that we?
No,
Yeah.
we reduce at the policy level.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's what the,
This is maintenance, and then we reduce the policy level.
So then if you turn to page 15, and you'll see that the expenses for the general fund are around 855. You can see that the major contribution is for the commissioners and the aides, in which we will reduce it by $100,000 in the reduction package that we have in policy. So that's the major impact to the general fund off of this packet in maintenance level 2. If you have any questions, I can answer them, but maintenance level 2 has contractual increases, so increases to postage and mailings, contracts.
But this isn't general fund, is it?
Some of it is.
Some of it is
55.
55,000 in 24 is general funds. And then you see a lot of other funds have maintenance level.
What does maintenance level 2 mean? What's the difference between 1 and 2?
Right, so maintenance level 2 is contractual increases, so mailings and postings, and then maintenance level 1 is, I'm gonna ask Robin, identify that one.
Maintenance level 1 is salary and benefits that we're assuming for our staff. And the indirect rates, those are the bulk of maintenance 1.
Thank you.
Right, other questions about maintenance 2?
is there anything on here, you know, if it's a contract, can we like, is it a contract that we can stop,
Get out of.
get it out of? I'm not sure, I'm
Most
asking.
of them are not, are without penalties, or they're contracts like the, I don't know, what kind of contracts are these? Mainly they're in other funds.
Well, we
like-
have one that's the county dues for Wasac, that would
Oh,
be
right.
covered in here.
Yeah. So we could
For
not be
example,
members of
don't wanna
WASAC.
Wasac to me.
Yeah, things like that. But the bulk of this is the, 4 new staff in the commissioner's office that were voted in.
Okay.
All right.
And that is the commissioners themselves too.
The commissioners and their aides.
Right. So that's all of maintenance level. The rest of the packets are policy level.
Yep, and we'll spend more time on those.
Yes.
Do we wanna hand out their policy sheets yet, or no?
Do we wanna what?
Must do.
The must-do sheets.
Okay, this Blake, policy, we don't need to do anything with this, do
We're gonna get into that.
we? We are? Okay,
Do you wanna hand that out now?
Yeah, we can do that.
You don't sound so enthusiastic about it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then just as a heads up, I do have a hard stop at 2:45 or 2:50.
For the rest of the day or?
No, just for
For a short.
a short period.
Help us pay attention.
Apparently we're just all tripping over chairs.
Thank you.
Did you wanna explain?
This is a compilation of your sheets from the two the last 2 weeks where we talked about the policy request and you guys did your must, yes, no, maybes. Compiled these requests are in the order in which you saw them last 2 weeks. And then I just, Commissioner A and B and C is just the order in which I received it. It means nothing. And ties back, the bolded items are general fund items.
Did we change the funding source for some of these positions?
Nothing has been changed at this point in the system,
But we're contemplating.
but we are
doing that.
contemplating
As
doing
we
it.
go through these packets, we will say if we think there's some other funding source for them. So this is as you saw them. All right, Blake.
So Blake. Blake is just a two-page sheet here, so the revenues that we get in from the state cover the expenses for Blake. This is a net to the general fund, meaning whatever expenses that we book in the general fund for Blake, we're also, looking at getting the reimbursable revenue in to cover that.
Line item number 3 is the one to pay attention to.
Want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the blank, is it a contract or agreement with the state for how we're gonna get reimbursed? Currently, right now, is through the end of June, so June 30th, 2024. We have an agreement to get reimbursed for Blake services. So what you have here is 3 departments. You have the clerk, Superior Court, and the prosecuting attorney. The clerk and the Superior Court have taken their Blake positions and just asked to fund them through the end of that date, through June 30th, 2024. The prosecuting attorney has asked to extend his positions and remove the end date. And so you will see in line 3 here that this is asking for funding to come from the general fund if Blake isn't around. I would propose that there be a proviso that says that if there's Blake funding, then we can afford to continue these positions.
But are they not gonna reimburse us after July of next year?
That's debatable. We think the contract ends because that's the end of the state biennium. And if there is still Blake work to get done, they're gonna renew and extend the contract. At which point we would propose to you to extend the end dates on all these positions. The prosecutor's request that we're talking about is a little different because the prosecutor says, please remove the end date, and when the Blake money ends, just pay for this out of general fund. And it would be an impact to the general fund balance
Of 300,000.
of 300,000, yep. And what the budget office recommendation is to maintain the end date on the prosecutor's position, just like in the other offices.
And not pick it up if we don't get it.
If
If
the,
it doesn't kick in, they'll have to wait
right,
until the legislature comes up with some money.
right. That's our recommendation.
kinda what
No
I have.
decisions at this time. We're just saying, we're drawing you. So when you said earlier, we don't need to look at the Blake package, you did because of this. All right, so that's that one.
I do have a question, right? So I understand the proviso and that makes total sense to me, adding that proviso and seeing if like funding goes away, you know, so do the positions.
I would
But
do
then-
end dates.
But then you would do end dates?
I would maintain the end dates. Rather than a proviso, they're more secure. Anyway,
But, you know, like, I'm just wondering, just if the Blake funding is going to be extended, right? If, let's say that they decide to do it like for another year, then we have to go through this process of like, well, if there's a proviso of if there's the Blake fund and, you know, funding ends by June 30th, then the positions will end, right? I'm just kind of seeing
If we have an end date, it's an easy thing to bring you a motion on a Tuesday afternoon to extend the end dates. You've seen those come.
Right now, it ends on June 30th, 2024.
June 30, that's when the contract ends. So that's why we're saying, just
And so
extend the end date.
so the clerks in Superior Court are requesting to extend it to June 30th. The prosecutor is requesting to just remove the end date.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So that's Blake.
Okay, so the next packet is policy level consolidation. This has to do with the utility consolidation. And so all the work that has been gone into consolidating the utilities, this is a packet to put together all those lines associated to do that. You'll see that there's no general fund impact.
No general fund.
No general.
No general fund
Ta-da.
Yeah. So now we're to policy level grants. And again, grants, the essence of a grant is that the revenue and the expenses match each other, that we're not asking for more expenditure authority than revenue.
Everything here is matched by revenue.
There is another request here that we'll have to look into, for, I believe it's also the emergency management to double check,
It
their expense
refers
authority.
back to this
Oh, no.
other one that we've already put down here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is not emergency management. It is line 10 on page 2.
3,
And this has to do with the comprehensive plan update. So we got $700,000 to spend over 2 years to update the plan. CPED is asking for an additional $210,000 out of the general fund to do more services for updating that plan. I reached out to CPED. They said it's for services that the county staff do not necessarily have the ability to do, and they would need to contract for professional services. And that's the additional $210,000 above the grant revenue to complete the comprehensive plan update.
I'm a no on that myself.
I would recommend that they have to stay within the funding that they receive.
So what's the,
So the change request is line 10
yeah,
on page 2.
I'm just wondering, like, you know, if, let's say, why is there that additional, and if you don't do it, what's the?
So the items that it includes was, they discussed this in the briefing with you on April 12th. And it covers future land use updates, the countywide industrial land study findings, climate change, and the economic and health elements part of the plans.
That's the plans,
But that's what this additional funding would cover.
the 210. But that's what the 700,000 is intended to cover.
No, these were the optional updates.
Oh, the options, wow. So maybe you don't do the options, or maybe if there are areas that CPED doesn't have internal skills, their internal staff don't have the skill set, and we have to contract for that, then maybe you spend the money on the contract and not the staff. And
Or-
it takes
or
longer
maybe
to
we
get
just
it
don't do
through.
it.
Or you don't do the optional
We
items or.
just wait until times are better.
If the amount that the state is sending us isn't enough, then we can't do it all. Or we do it slower.
Slower, that's what I'm thinking. We
Yeah.
were how many years late the last time? 1 year late would be like awesome
It would.
compared to how it was last year. So we'll just work on those items, but we'll
If
work on them
possible.
as fast as we can.
Right. So no decisions today, but that's a decision we'll be asking you.
The
I hope
goal of
somebody's
being done
writing
by
them down.
2025 was just like,
There, look at all these packets. You got it.
Okay. So the next packet is called Healthy Lakes. And this is for the LNDs. It's related to indirects. for the lake management districts. If you turn to page 5, you'll see the total general fund impact is just $27,000.
All 4 lakes?
Yes,
That's the
it's
increase
just the
in
increase over the
indirect.
indirect rate.
The increase in indirect.
Yeah, the
But we
total
were paying,
indirect,
but what were we paying before? Because we made that, well, I made that provisional on ability to afford to do it.
yeah,
So what's the total cost of doing the indirect subsidy?
so we can look that up.
Because I think it was already 27 something, so this is like doubling.
Pretty much.
Because we would be adding 2 lakes to that,
Right.
2 districts.
Cost of increase and plus 2 more lakes.
Right,
To me, it looks like the net effect is a doubling of cost.
that sounds about right.
Okay.
What about foundational public health, clean water? We gotta stretch,
We did reach out to,
or don't do it, one of the other.
David to try and get some information on foundational public health. And he says at this time that climate-related issues, I know it's healthy lakes, but it's in that realm, that right now he doesn't think it's supported by foundational public health to be able to use that funding source.
Can do,
This has nothing to do with climate.
It doesn't have anything to do with climate. He also mentioned,
but climate can be funded, but
it
this,
Climate cannot.
cannot.
We don't know about the healthy lakes.
and
Did we
who says that
specifically have
climate
Good
cannot?
information.
our attorney?
Well, let's get another attorney. If that's all it takes, let's get another attorney.
I think that's all it takes. I think it takes talking to whether.
There, you know what, you get 2 attorneys in court, you got 2 different opinions, so let's take the one with the better opinion.
Okay.
So the
Guess I lose.
$27,000 is for the indirect, and are you suggesting we not do that?
Not if we can't afford it. I mean, not doubling it,
For the
that's an ad.
lakes? Are you?
I'm all for the lakes, but if we can't afford it, we can't afford it. That's the problem that we're faced with.
Okay.
And, I'm all for the status quo. As a matter of fact, we can take 5% off of that if we have to, and make it so it's just the 25,000 or
The
something.
2 new
have
lakes
the
are gonna
lakes pay?
complicate.
So
Well,
the bulk of, the majority of the cost in this package includes, costs for repair and maintenance of the boat.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't that all gonna kind of
I'll
go
loan them my
away
boat.
because
I've
of-
got a boat,
No.
I'll give them a boat.
No, it's not all gonna go away.
Will not go away, but isn't it gonna be in a way resolved if we shift the model that we are doing business?
So I think that's a great conversation to have when Rob is with us.
I think they're gonna have a very cooperative agreement when when Rob gets done putting this all together. And they can do things like volunteer my boat instead of paying to rebuild a county
Under
boat.
it's my understanding, and again, Rob knows a lot more because he's working this, but it is my understanding, that in the current agreement that we're working toward, there would still be internal service costs because we're not just passing the money through to be managed. We'd still have an FTE, not a whole FTE, but we'd still have at least part of an FTE that would manage contracts, bring treatment contracts before the board for approval. We'd still process all payments through the county, and that's what the indirect costs support. So more when Rob is here and he can say exactly what the agreement is.
I would think the thank you, Commissioner Mejia, for bringing that up, because I hadn't really thought that through, but I do see what you're saying. It's not gonna be 0 indirect costs.
Right.
But it should be less. Because for, I'm trying to remember all the different pieces that the lake management districts wanted support for, supervisory, this and that, and things that are gonna be under their contract with a third party. It won't be zero, it won't be, I don't want, just, if it's half of what it is, and then that allows us to do the new lakes under the same parameter for the same amount with no
this-
increase.
Yeah, without an
Maybe I could
increase.
swallow that, but I think we're in a bind if we're looking at this kind of an increase. But hopefully Rob can give us more of a sense of that.
Right.
But anyway, I'm glad they
BoCC
flagged
is
that.
the one
'Cause
working
that-
with
I'm
it.
just trying to see, I guess that could potentially sway my consideration of this if this new model, we have a reasonable basis to believe it will reduce indirect costs.
I believe we all got an attaboy, communication from the Lakes people about Rob's involvement about trying to get this thing going. So I think that if it's an initial blush that, yeah, we're headed in the right direction.
Trying very hard to
Yeah.
make an
And
agreement.
I
with the
agree
Lakes.
with Commissioner Menzer that it's not gonna be zero, but maybe what we've been putting in status quo or something could
Maybe.
be enough with a 5% cut.
We'll see. Depends on how you set it up.
Alright, so the next packet is policy level capital. And I'd like to bring your attention to the first three lines here. They happen to do with the Yelm Rainier
I know.
to 90, thank you. Trail Park, this has to do with the pickleball park over there. They're asking for an additional $130,000. Right now, it's just a placeholder in the general fund. We did work with our attorneys to see if we could use conservation futures, and we were told that that is not a viable source to use conservation futures, however, we could use REIT too,
But we
If the
could
board
reach-
should want to do
if the
this.
board should want to do
Well,
this
I'd be
project.
much more inclined to do REIT two, to do this. And the reason for that is, it's a total community benefit, really, if you think about it. And it would take less drain on the general fund. It solves the problem. REIT two is a limited access fund anyway. So why not do something with it that's legal?
Do we have enough capacity?
And we have capacity.
Do we? That was my.
Even in REIT two.
Yes.
I mean, it's
we're
gonna see
having to cut
less.
back.
It's
Well, we
gonna-
were scraping for, we were scraping for money for Country Club Road or different thing. I'd have to look at that fund.
So I've been working
Right.
with Public Works and REIT two, they've been doing some evaluating of the projects that are within there. And they're able to get through the biennium at a positive fund balance, however, outside of the biennium, they are projecting a negative. But that's also timing of projects and when they're actually going to hit the fund and be expelled out. But I do think that we could squeeze out $130,000 out of REIT two for this project,
If the board wants to.
if the board would like to support this.
Can we pull up, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it in all my little charts
So
here.
again, no decisions today.
Yeah,
Do they have-
I know, but just to see it, if that's,
Do we know if they got $250 from the county from park impact fees and,
290.
$290?
They're close to 300.
It says $250 on the sheet, but, if we don't grant this, like, is it do they have any other options, I guess is my question. Is it us or this project
I
just
don't,
never
I don't know.
happens?
We can certainly ask.
There is the option to apply for a grant, the city would have an option to apply for a grant.
I hope we're applying for a grant anyway. would
I can't
hope.
remember
Would be the
who's,
city.
I can't remember who the entity is that would fund the grant, but there is that option for them.
Well,
so,
what's that outfit we give them some money to help us with grants for this kind
The
of
Park
stuff?
Foundation,
Yes.
it's a state agency that they would be able to apply for, or. a
Why
function
couldn't the
would-
Park Foundation be doing something like this? To get us a return on our investment? I mean, that's what I'm looking for, what are they gonna give us for the investment? You know, we can't just
we
keep,
haven't started the contract with them.
oh, I thought we
yet,
already
no,
started it.
We haven't.
Park contract
Yeah.
is still not.
Why, what was the holdup on? I thought we authorized it sometime
But
back.
it's still, from what I
Did.
heard from them, it's still not. They're still
Really?
waiting, yeah, I saw them and they said they were still waiting on it, and so,
I
I
understand
will
through their
make a note to
story.
follow up on what happened with that.
I'm trying to pull up that plan.
Because you did authorize it and you authorized an amount of money for it.
20
And
grand.
Yeah, and I don't know why that isn't moving forward.
So the REIT two plan, I'm gonna share my screen.
Have a pen.
Here you go.
It's
Oh, here's one.
Oh.
Here, got
really
it.
tiny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Aren't you about due to go out of here, Chair?
Yeah, it's two
Oh,
50?
I have 5 more minutes.
Okay.
So maybe, is that better? Maybe make a little smaller?
Can we go down to the fund balance?
Yeah.
And so you'll see that on the left-hand side here, these are the suggestions to bring down the funding for certain projects, for trail connectivity and for fish passage projects or program. To move things further down in the year, not to stop work, but to use the resources that they currently have in 23 to do that work in 24.
So this reflects the, what's in the CIP and the, in future years, we've really pared it down so that the only things left are the culvert, a portion of the culvert program
Right.
and the park. What else is left in this?
Yeah, so this does have, yeah, it has the overlay projects in there too. The pavement preservation is in there. The culvert project is in there. Projects that they have already started work on are still in the plan.
So according to the CIP, but in future years, it's pared back to just very few things.
Right, so they're asking to reduce the trail connectivity program because they have already funding available in 23, so they want to carry that forward in 24 to continue to do that work.
What about 26 and beyond?
So here in 26, we have pavement preservation. We have parks programs, the trail programs here that they're still working through. We have Sergeant Road here. So they've pared it down in the outer years.
It looked like fish passage was,
And
fish passage was still
Fish
on there.
passage and trail connectivity.
They've cut the two programs that the board has added.
Right, so they're saying that the workload that they have currently right now with the authority that you have already awarded them is enough to do in 24. So to give them more authority and they haven't spent yet what they have would be, they don't need that authority to do the work. So they're asking not for more authority in 24, but for that authority from 23 to be moved into 24 to continue that work, to be able to continue to make REIT whole.
It sounds like there's money in there to do this 130.
We think you could easily get 130,000 if you really want to support this park in Tenino.
In Tenino or Rainier?
Rainier.
Rainier.
Yeah.
Is this the Rainier?
This is the Rainier.
This is Rainier.
And it goes along with the money that's already been committed.
That's correct.
Without it, nothing happens, so that's what we're up against.
So, no decision today. The state of REIT 2 is we need to start cutting back on things in the long term to sustain the fund. You may recall that the revenue projections in REIT are conservative in the future, because you might remember that volatile REIT revenue chart that I showed you. You may look 2 years from now, this is the fund where it might be suddenly coming in gangbusters again.
Yes, it could.
It could. This is the fund that'll do that. But for right now, we're saying in the future, we're gonna have to be mindful of what you spend in this fund as well.
I guess an argument is that we have so little capacity to provide parks for our citizens. And here's an opportunity to get a park. The city does the maintenance and operation.
Yeah.
So
And
It's a
serves
way to
that
get-
whole area.
even people that are outside the city limits of Rainier that live in the county would be able to access it. It's a park that we can provide, help provide without having to pay for over the long term.
Right.
And I believe Rainier has an MOU signed with us where they maintain part of
Yes.
it, you know, and
Yep.
so we've had a really good partnership and they've done a really good job in maintaining kind of that trail. From what I spoke with Mayor Shaw, right, this was unexpected. They're looking at other possibilities, but it's just, inflation just got them. And I think what their fear is the longer they keep waiting for possible grants, the more prices will keep going up and they'll be caught in a situation where, you know, it's just
Have
gonna.
they started anything or have they just?
They have started from what I believe, but.
What do they have done, you know?
Well, they're good to go. They've improved that whole area in there. And this is part of that improvement. I haven't been there myself.
I mean, we were just down there this Friday and I forgot to look over in that area.
I mean, I go by it all the time.
Yeah, I was like, you know, I just completely-
Unfortunately, I haven't had time to stop when they've got stuff going on.
So no decision today, but that is the one item in this packet that currently hits the general fund that we think could be paid for out of something else. Everything else in this packet is other funds and it aligns with your CIP.
So we're at 250, Commissioner.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a break. We'll go ahead and take a break until,
Hope you have good kids.
hopefully it'll be quicker. We'll take a 30-minute break if that's okay, and then we'll come back. Thank you. We are back from break. It is 3:32 and passing it just straight back to Nicole.
Okay, so we're gonna pick up on budget lines. We're in policy and we're on the commissioner brainstorm.
Throw this one out.
So I am gonna,
Throw this one out. Just click.
all right, so the first two lines here are for an internal auditor. This is a general fund request. And I'll just keep going through the lines unless you want me to stop.
Can this second internal auditor, I mean, they technically provide services for everyone, right? Can it be?
Filled out through the cost plan, just like the current internal auditor would be.
Okay,
So it'll
It
be
would be
like
the
what,
60-40 split.
60-40 split?
Mhm.
And some of these, some of these we went through and so now we're overlapping some of our must-do considerations.
We'll be going through all of those again. So now
So
with
I
the
don't-
actual lines.
So do I need to be looking at what I said before and what, I mean, should we be cross-referencing this sheet as we go through these or?
Yeah, it could be helpful.
But how come it says general fund at 133,000 if it's 60-40?
Because the 60-40 kicks in 2 years down the road. It's on a lag. So for the first 2 years, it would be 100% general fund before we started
I
seeing.
think she ought to just be auditing the road fund. I don't know, I can't do that if we're not gonna.
Right, so,
Wanted to
so
see if
again,
there
no
was-
decisions today, we're just gonna walk through these fast. Jennifer, you've probably got the most knowledge about what got marked as a must-do by someone. So maybe you could flag if it was a must-do,
This was not a must-do.
not in your head? Okay.
No, I said, I have a photographic memory.
Woo-hoo,
I've
you
got
got
it
us
all.
covered.
No, this was not on anybody's.
Right, this is not on a must-do.
Okay, so then, line 3 is for a federal lobbyist, a grant consultant. This is also general fund.
So while we don't have anything so far, the metrics that we are working to get from them is how many grants have they identified that we're actually eligible for. It's much too early in a grant cycle. We've only been working with them a couple months now. But we think that if we were to continue to have the consultant that we're working with right now, they would eventually be bringing in far more than we would spend to have them, but
Why does that have to be under general fund? Why can't that be a 60-40 split as well?
it would be,
And possibly even out of foundational public health for now, because we'll have them look to help us on our Board of Health, our brand new Board of Health needs help. So if they find something else, they can point it.
if the lobbyists were working solely on specific types of funding, we would charge them directly to those types. We could find a way to bill this out, but right now, if they're working generally, it would be in the general fund.
Okay, how about
And we would-
60-40?
We would definitely do the 60-40 on a
60-40 and
2-year
half and
lag.
half. So 60-40 and the
The other half
split,
direct.
yeah,
Ideally, what you do is bill them against the grants that they brought in.
can you do that?
I think we could find a way to do that. But they'd have to start bringing money in. I think that they will.
now, does that need to be for a full year? Why don't we give them 3 months to start with or
So-
something? Have a short contract or something.
We have a short contract, 4 months.
Oh,
Um,
okay,
and like I said, the metrics we can get in that short of time are going to be how many grants have you identified that we're actually eligible for and can pursue, but so far, they are still in the process. I think they only had 2 offices left to meet with. They've got lots of great ideas of grants that we can pursue.
Which offices are missing? Do you know?
They've not yet met with Public Works, and I don't remember the other one. And Public Works is gonna be the one that we've got the most
Yeah.
opportunities for.
That's gonna be the big one for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can charge it right from the grants that we're getting, or, you know, kind of what I'm holding out for is the appropriations, those appropriations that are coming up. And
That's in the spring.
one of the reasons I advocated for it was because once those become available, it's such a quick turnaround, and there's a lot of prep work that happens beforehand.
Right.
And I wanted for staff to have that support before the appropriations became ready. That way they would have a chance, but, okay, thank you.
So we're looking for a way. I think this could be extremely beneficial to the county, but
If we did one,
Yeah.
what do you say, 1/3 of it? Did you say for 4 months? Is that what you said?
we've currently got a contract with them through the end of December. If we're going to extend it, we should extend it for at least 6 months
Well,
to
have they
see.
come up with anything yet? It's been in place 2-3 months
They
now.
have come up with a few things, but we don't have the money coming in yet. They've come up with the things that we can apply for.
Yeah, but still,
Yeah.
can't we get a pretty good idea if it's gonna be somewhat successful, history?
Well, that's why I've asked for an inventory of the grants that they've identified. Trying to
Okay.
get some kind of data to base it on.
So the next line here is, if we're ready to move on.
What's the deal on the next one? We don't
Okay.
have anything with that, right?
Number 4,
Yeah.
Legislative Senior Program
No.
Manager.
I think that's a want to. Unless they come up with something right quick. Some will work for free, a lot of places work for free for a little bit until they get something, until they get somebody on the line.
The next one is a grant writer. This is also through general fund.
So what we found out about Strategies 360 is they'll identify grants, they'll help us advocate for the grants, but they don't write the grants. So I think that the grant writer and the lobbyist kind of go hand in hand.
Well, I don't think we can do any of this whole page. It comes right down to it. Not unless something drastic happens.
Auditor argued that their grant writer had capacity to help us. I know that maybe not shared opinion, but I'm just throwing it out there.
We've worked with the grant manager before in an attempt to complete grants.
Has it worked?
No.
Well, that's good enough for me.
Lines 8 through 11 are the Thurston County Core Alternative Program. There is a small general fund component. The last we spoke about this, we talked about being able to remove that general fund component and using the other sources of revenue to support this program.
I think Leah said that she thought we could.
Which one are you referring to now?
Lines
8 through 11.
8 through 11. So there's 10,000 in general fund, the rest of it's from other funds. We would propose that you eliminate the general fund piece and increase one of the other 3. So just for your consideration when the time comes.
I'd have a hard time arguing with that.
Line 12 is for professional development for the county. It was just a brainstorming, so HR put in $50,000 to help with professional development. Line 13 is for the stipends for our advisory boards. We will have diversity coming on Tuesday to speak more about the stipends.
And I think we have a difference of opinion about that, but. I don't know.
We do. Well, we have a maybe and a no, so I don't know how much a difference of opinion that is.
I'm adamantly opposed to it, because I've seen a lot of boards that work just fine without. I know the concept. I think school boards, there's something in this, in legislation on school boards that they can do that, I think, now too,
So
individual meetings.
this is not advocating for or against this item. I'm just saying we've provided an opportunity for members of the Diversity Council to come and speak to you, and that is on
That is tomorrow at 11:45.
tomorrow at 11:45.
Yes.
And this number would be if every member of every committee, did not
Yes.
opt out and took the full amount.
That's correct.
And this would be from various funds depending on what advisory committee they're on as well.
Right. It certainly would not have to be 100% general fund.
My suspicion is that you'd get, 50% or less, but
You can put this one down for me for if we win the lottery. Okay, that's where I'm at. I ain't against it, it's just nothing there to pay for it right now.
Next.
Line 14 is security guard for the Olympia Lacey train station. This is also a general fund request.
The lottery.
is this under which, non-departmental?
Non-departmental, and this was no's.
I see it, okay.
Not considered a must-do.
Line 15 is for a fair coordinator to reinstate this position. Last we spoke about this position,
And I like the fair, having something, I'd like to do it, but no, I can't do it. I
we
just can't.
discussed the opportunity to see if this position can bring in revenue and how that can help offset some of the expenses.
I think this position could end up paying for itself in the long.
I do too, I
Right.
think it could, but is it going to, the right position?
It would help with, I mean, we could put it, a proviso in there that if, I don't know, but just seeing, I mean, even with everything working out with the Goldilocks effect, as Josh calls it, right, the fair breaks even, and I feel like,
Yes, no.
Why
Yes,
isn't
no,
this
maybe, you
community
didn't make it easy for
wellness?
yourselves.
Why can't the fair be for the benefit of the community wellness program?
Foundational public health.
Yes, how do you know where I was going with that? That's exactly
That's a
right.
wild guess. All right.
I was gonna say, could it, I don't know, it can't be funded through REIT or it's not.
No, it absolutely could not be funded out of REIT. It would be considered an M&O type cost. Nothing out of REIT. Yeah, it's
Well, take it out of conservation futures, that might work.
nope. The M&O from Conservation Futures is capped at 25%, and you already dedicate all of that to parks and trails. So, moving on.
Line number 16 is, again, a commissioner brainstorm item for emergency services to help with infrastructure. It says $100,000 impact to the general fund, but it comprises 3 different options, and the least dollar amount option is for $10,000 for a radio initiative. There's been, spoke to you concerning these different
Why
options.
can't we get hazard mitigation grants from the military department to do this?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Something besides general fund.
And one of you asked if we could use ARPA funding for this.
We'll get
ARPA?
Get Kurt to sign off on that for the military fund of some kind. He knows something. That's
I
where
don't
he
know
worked
how we
before
tie
got
it to
here.
ARPA. Did we get an answer on that?
I don't think I followed up on that.
We can continue to look up on that. So the next page, page 5, line 17 through 21. This was a request to match the LMD's revenue So this is all, the first line, it shows $600,000 impact to general fund.
Is that my pie in the
So
sky
write out.
request?
Do what? Yes, that was one of yours.
Okay, yeah, well, that's out of my lottery fund as well.
Page
I'm gonna be accessing your lottery fund. I like that. I'm gonna throw some things in there.
Page 6, line 22 is for the Summit Lake land transfer. This is $100,000 impact to general fund.
Is this?
Where is this under?
This is
under
under C.
I thought this was through conservation futures.
So this was the purchase of the land would be done under conservation futures, but the person to maintain it after we had it would be out of general fund.
$100,000
Or
a year? That's not,
I think that has to come out of my lottery fund too.
Wondering for a
So why
request like
wouldn't it
this,
be
why couldn't we
conservation
partner
futures?
with the land trust?
I would have to follow up why they couldn't use
Could, but
conservation
they-
futures for the
The
maintenance of
land
it.
trust needs a payment to do the work.
They have volunteers, don't they? Oh, we could probably get, the Summit Lake people to volunteer to keep that up.
where is this in? Where
It
is
should be
this?
planning, community planning, or CPED.
Yeah.
Find it for you.
Looking for it. Plan, okay, there it is. 200. We all said yes on this. There was something about this, maybe because we were talking about conservation futures.
Yeah, so if it's purchased through conservation futures, then you can use M&O for some property that you acquired using it.
We can make the purchase out of conservation futures, but you can't pay the maintenance and operational costs. Out of
Why do we,
conservation
what do we,
futures.
let's let that lay for about 5 years.
Because it'll get
What?
cut
We
down.
got 10 years to make it good, to make something out of it.
No, we don't have to, even Travis was very clear, we didn't, our obligation, it's gotta be in your parks plan, but you don't really have to do anything.
To do anything after the fact.
We don't have, I mean, you have to make sure you're not, I mean, someone's got, there's minimal amount of like, what's going on out there, is there anything dangerous, whatever, but we do not have to develop it into a park or a trail system. or-
No one is suggesting that we develop it into a park or make it part of our trails.
What Travis described was minimally necessary, would not cost $100,000 a year.
Okay, so then someone needs to connect with Travis to see what is.
We just get another
Minimal
attorney if the opinion in, right? Get him to redo it. Let's scratch that out. We can think about that later if
Could
we
we-
get the purchase made.
Could we get more information on that, on
Yeah.
this?
What the $100,000 is the estimated cost for a forester to maintain.
Oh, yeah, we can't
Forest
do
plan.
that.
That was never talked about. We were very clear about that before we made the decision to move forward. We got legal opinion saying nothing even approaching what that would be a requirement of this law.
Okay,
We didn't even need to buy hose for the volunteers, I don't think.
we'll follow up with
What we were
Travis.
wringing our hands about was just the mechanics of the transfer and paying for the surveys and the legal documents and just the back and forth with DNR and identifying the parcels, all the staff time going into the actual mechanical. We were told that it would be a very minimal thing on an ongoing basis.
Okay.
Okay, we will connect with Travis and see what the,
Well, just scratch
you
it,
had
just
in
scratch
mind,
the whole
but
damn thing off. Don't-
I
Just say scratch
don't
it.
know that you would get a second vote on not obtaining this land.
Well, I'm not saying the land can come out of the conservation futures.
Right, so
But-
once we have it,
We're there, I'm with,
There's-
Ty, there was never any mention of this.
well,
Rob has his hand up. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, thanks. I do think that, there might be an opportunity, obviously, beyond the acquisition to really take some time in the not too distant future to really develop what that policy and overall management program is to determine whether or not it requires sort of an in-house level of support or whether or not there is an active management program that could be looking at just the restorative nature of the activities on the land, as well as looking at potentially fire management, et cetera, that could be handled potentially through contract. So there are options. I think it'd be good to take the time to develop a policy around that.
I absolutely agree that there are options, but all of them so far cost money.
Well,
None
no,
of them are free.
I don't agree that it has to cost any money. And the reason I say that, the county treasurer has got quite a few properties he's trying to identify that we own, that the county has title to, and we don't have anybody managing them. That'd be no different.
Those
than
tax
that.
title
No,
properties.
not tax title. This
But
is
you're
not
not
tax
talking
title.
about tax
Nope,
title.
we
What are
just
you
sold one
talking
for him the
about?
other day. Remember, I tried to.
Those are tax title properties.
Nope, the one that he just sold is not. It's the county owned it for whatever reason, and they tried to auction it sometime back.
And is that one of the properties the treasurer brought forward?
Yep, it is.
Those are all tax title
Yep.
property.
I had this discussion with him. I don't think so. And besides that, we've got other properties where we had to take the alder tree down, you know, a couple of those kind of things. There is no reason that we need to spend $1 on coming up with a plan now to address that. We've got the park out at, Lawrence Lake it's right next to, the boat launch. That, the county owns that. It's not one of our maintained parks. It's just a piece of property. They don't have a thing going on there. People use it all the time, but we're not out there maintaining it or doing a thing. So whoever come up with this, that ain't no good. No good.
If we were to do like a land, not donation, but with a land trust or even the tribe, I'm just wondering why, you know, I'm sure the Squaxin tribe would possibly be, I don't know, I am just kind of, but, you know, maybe they would be interested.
Let's just
Or
scratch
donate the
this.
land?
Huh, yeah, you know, it can be a similar MOU to what we're doing with the Chehalis roadway right now. Or do something with a land trust. I'm not sure which land trust it would fit under necessarily.
let's just
But
say
I'm
we're
just
not
wondering,
doing this.
yeah, I would think there would be other options that we could look into next year, right? Purchasing doing that first step of acquiring the land. But maybe,
23 is acquiring the land, 22 is what we're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe on that forester issue, maybe just waiting and seeing if there's
Yeah, I know.
Some other options.
some other options. Is that,
Well, something with no dollars attached to it with any of this kind. So there's no mistake. This is a go away situation because it was never talked about when we talked about buying.
Right. So, are we ready to move on?
Sure.
Yep, okay. Lines 24 through 26 are Axon. This is the Justice Premier, the digital evidence management system. This was a placeholder, I believe, put in by IT on behalf of prosecutor and public defense. Sherry will be with us on Thursday to go over all IT budget requests, so she can speak to this one in more detail.
You know, I didn't get through the prosecuting attorney's portion on this, but I think we ought to not do any of this. And let the submitting agency be in charge of pulling clips or whatever they want to present for evidence and not create a whole nother program. The submitting agency, Olympia's got a lot of money, Lacey's got a lot of money. They can get it all lined up for the prosecutor.
Why am I not signing this? First page?
The very last one in IT.
Okay.
And the extra capital letters in the word no do not mean anything. That was,
Yes, they do. No, I'm just kidding, they don't.
Okay. Line 27 is for a network division FTE. This position is not general funded. Sherry did speak to us for the need for this position with the growth in the county. So this is a very important position, and it's not general fund.
Are we getting along without it right now?
Not well,
But it does not come out of the general fund.
true.
Oh, well, then, I'm okay with it. I'm just starting to get locked in on that rut.
And the last request is for a Healthy Lakes Comprehensive Study. This is out of the Environmental Health Fund. Asking,
Good with that. There's no public health. And then we can do the lakes in general. Cause here it fits, right there.
All right, we got about 2 minutes left.
4:15.
Are we till 4:15? Not 4
we're
o'clock?
supposed to be to 4.
Oh,
But we can still going. We can keep going if
Keep
you all
going,
have,
keep
all
going.
right. Let's keep going.
The next one's TST, if you guys wanna get into that one.
do you have to go?
I don't think so. I think I have a meeting with the director. I can just double check with my schedule. Yeah, I'm good till 4:30 at least.
Let's go to 4:15 then, that way everyone gets it.
So the next packet is TST, treatment sales tax. I'm gonna go line by line. We did have a presentation by Shaylin to go over the recommendations of the TST committee. So the first position here, the first request here was recommended for full funding by the TST committee. And this is for the care coordinator. It's a reclassification.
Nicole, can the TST fund bear the entire amount of these requests?
Right, so, I need to work with Shaylin, because there was, in the presentation with the recommendation was to decrease some of our maintenance level items, and I still need to clean that up and make sure that the fund can support it, but by time later on this week, I'll have that information presented for you guys, so you can see
They're
that.
gonna be
And the
kinda
final plan.
stagnant on that tax coming in as well.
Yes, and we factored that into
Okay.
the forecast. So the total amount of these requests is 2 million,
Right,
and the question is, how much in that fund can the board approve?
I'll have that final answer sometime this week.
So are we done with this one now?
Do you want to, we can be, yes,
Can we go
unless
over
there's
it?
questions,
Can you get that other information? Or-
yes. Okay, so then the next one is policy level again, we're on FTE, removing of end dates. The first request here is for the auditor to extend the position for the historical preservation project. This is not general fund, this is the auditor's M&O fund. The second line here is for the clerk, and it's through also the auditor's M&O fund. And this is also to remove the position to extend for their records position. That's line 2 and 3, they work together. Line 4 is to extend or add the deputy prosecuting attorney's ARPA positions in 25 and 26. So we do have an opportunity to look at the ARPA fund and see what is available in there from the last time we met at our briefing in September to see what's available. I can pull that up now. Is there time to go into that?
We'll have a ARPA briefing sometime this week.
Okay. We'll get more information then. All right, so then the next position, I'm on line 5 on page 3.
I'm sorry, could we go back to line 4?
Sure.
So is this only the ARPA positions, removing end dates for only the ARPA positions? Or is it also adding
Or this is extending and adding.
and adding? And what
Yes.
is it that they're adding here?
Deputy prosecuting attorney.
In addition, deputy. So we'll wanna split this in pieces and figuring out how much of it really is extending the end dates under ARPA and how much is the new FTE that he's asking for.
I've been working with Diana, she's on the call there, but we'll have some final numbers when we have the briefing.
So this one isn't ready to talk about yet.
Not really.
So these are different, there's Blake positions in prosecutor and ARPA positions.
Yes,
And the ARPA positions relate to backlog,
yes.
Blake relates to the Blake calendars.
Line 5 here is to remove the end date on, bless you, on 2 FTE positions related to the ERP. These are not general fund, funded positions, and these are related just to the ERP, but also in the workload that will be available or will still have once the ERP is up and running. So we're asking to move those end dates.
Is there plenty of money in there?
Yes, there's money to support these positions.
And it's gonna be the baseline from now on,
If it were to be approved,
for
yes.
moving forward.
The,
And wanting two, can one work, or is there adequate funding to make it all work?
There are 2 positions in 2 different areas, so they're based inside of IT, but they're in 2 different departments. One's in our department, and Robin or Jennifer, do you guys know what the other one is?
There's actually one in Public Works
So that'd be half of that would be,
that
Not sure.
they have, I'll have to see if it's this change request because Public Works intended to pay for it themselves and I think it got wrapped up into this one.
I believe this one's in the commissioners and in IT. I think these 2 positions, I'll double check.
What this,
Okay.
this one on this chart says no and no.
So these, to remove the end dates for these positions would help with getting the ERP up and running, as well as related to all the system work that's needed to keep things going once the system's up and going.
right, and when we've been talking, the last year about acknowledging the ongoing costs that come with new systems, this is part of that. By standing up Oracle, there's significantly more support needed.
is that good? Bad? It sounds
It just
bad to me.
is.
It just
is what
is,
it is.
just needed,
It
there's
is,
no way
it's
around
the
it.
cost of
Doing
technology.
business.
You know, IT's about to go into their ERP system and I was almost had a panic attack when they said that. I was like, no. But apparently, I was talking to someone who is in the IT world. I think they do a software and they were talking about ERP systems and I was telling them about our continued issues about the delays that we're facing. And what they told me was that it's basically like that everywhere.
Normal.
It's
a
normal, which was
Disheartening.
disheartening and kind of painful to hear. But that, you know, that's kind of what was relayed. It was normal part.
That's
which
what
is-
we've heard too, is that this type of, the delays and the renegotiations are normal. And it doesn't matter what kind of technology it is, it doesn't matter who your partner is, that ERPs are messy.
So that's line 6 and 7 we move into, that's continuation of that conversation, and this is a placeholder for the update to the ERP contract.
And this is where the Public Works FTE is because they had the accounting system to help with the asset work. So this is that FTE. There's a position in HR and a position in financial services that
Yeah,
is
that's what I
covered
was
under
about to
this.
say, there should be one in financial services and at least one in HR.
Yes.
Can I ask a process question? So I'm wondering what this kind of intermediate step is for. We've gone through these one by one with the different office and departments. We're gonna have to go through and make decisions, but it seems like we're going through them again. But there's no real new information being added from where we thought the first time. I mean, if it was like, oh, this question came up in the auditor's presentation, here's some more detail, commissioners, but it seems like we're just ticking through these, and it's not helping me accomplish anything.
Okay.
I'm going back and trying to look at what I said last time and like, okay, I mean, I'd rather just go right to the decision-making discussion so that we're not having to go through these yet a third time.
All right,
I don't think we're gonna run out of time.
okay.
I mean,
We can
doesn't
do
it-
that.
Doesn't it feel like we're gonna run out of time?
We got a lot less far than I thought we would today, because we've been spending a lot of time on each one.
I think that's been
Instead of
the
just-
issue. I think we're
yeah.
all ready to make decisions as basically, I agree with Commissioner Mensah. I think we're all there in that decision
We
point.
can always go back and go, oh, you know,
Yeah.
we don't have enough money, you know, we didn't cut enough, or we didn't, you know, I mean, they can be very, very preliminary, but
At least something
at
where
least
we're
to
at
try to
least.
get some sorting out of what we're gonna do as a must-do, instead of
Right.
trying to go through these a third time.
So today was just a run through, like a refresher of what all's in front of you. We certainly didn't get through it all. And the rest of the week is decisions.
Okay.
So, I mean, we ran out of time to
Well,
do the
I mean, there
refresher.
are issues where like, for example, treatment sales tax, I mean, I couldn't make heads or tails of what I should be doing because we had all those questions. So that's one where we needed to come back and kind of go through and look at I need to see the whole rundown again, including what the committee recommended, what they didn't recommend, but then juxtaposed against the new questions we had about FTEs that have been funded and et cetera. That's one where we would need to do that, but to just
Right.
tick through all of these again, I'm not getting any more information than I got the first time.
Well, and that's why I suggested we not take through the TST package, because none of these have the reduction. None of these are the reductions that the committee recommended. Yeah, so we don't have that, we don't know what the limit is, so, all right, so then, here's what we'll do. As we go through the rest of the week, there will be times when we're just gonna start working our way down the lists, and then there'll be times when people are bringing you additional information that you asked for. And what we are suggesting is that, like with you're gonna meet tomorrow with the people about the stipends, that as soon as you finish talking to them and we say goodbye and they leave the room, you make the decision about the stipends. When Patrick and John Thunheim and Mary Hall are here to talk about the justice piece of the law and justice tax, public safety, that's the right term. That as soon as you're finished chatting with them about what would move to that you make a decision about all of their requests related to that and the rest of it for that particular department. So as
We can set
things,
some maybes along the way, you know. we can say-
absolutely, you can say, let's come back to this at the end, which we always do. And then in between presentations, we'll just be saying, okay, now let's take the pay increase packet, ready, go. Thumbs up, thumbs down. So that's what we'll be doing the rest of the week.
Okay. 4:10?